Hi, I'm Parsons, and in this session I want to talk to you about stories. You know, the camera is such an intimate environment. It really lends itself to the power of stories. I know there's a debate about how much you should use stories these days, perhaps when you're preaching, but I can tell you that in the business world, stories are really in. Stories are older than fire. And the greatest communicator who ever lived told stories, lots of them. In fact, it was said of him, without a parable, which is essentially a short story, he didn't speak to them. My public speaking changed forever when I discovered the sheer power of stories. And as you speak into camera, I would urge you occasionally to insert a story or two. That intimate environment will allow it sometimes to really touch somebody's heart. And whenever I use stories, I think of three elements: detail, empathy, and application. Sometimes painting in a little detail, the color of the sky, the sounds that were going on. Paint detail, allow your listeners to really enter that story. And then empathy, you want people to feel it. The great thing about stories is we can put ourselves in the story. You know, Henri Nouwen said that, he said, when I listen to the parable of the prodigal son, sometimes I am the loving father, sometimes I am the judgmental elder brother. And then he said this, sometimes I look at the dirty, tear-stained face coming down the road towards the house, and I know in my heart, I'm the prodigal. You want that empathy, you want it to touch somebody's heart. And finally, application. You want to be able to apply it. So as you tell stories, think of those three elements. Now I'm going to tell you now to camera one of my favorite stories. I've told this story hundreds of times down the years. And listen out for that detail, that empathy, that application. A friend of mine was brought up in Canada in a farm in a big valley, and when he was about 9 years old, his dad said to him one Christmas Eve, "Son, I want you to help me carry some groceries down the valley to Joe's cottage." My friend was terrified. Joe was a recluse. He lived in this little cottage in the middle of the wood, and rumor was that if he caught you and you were under 10 years old, he would eat you alive. He said, "I couldn't believe my own father wanted me to be eaten alive," but I said, okay, I would. And that Christmas Eve, we carried bags of groceries down the valley towards Joe's cottage. He said that year the snow had fallen the night before, and our boots made virgin marks in it as we made our way towards the wood. He said, when we got near the wood, I saw the smoke coming up, and I began to get scared. And now we're in the darkness of the trees, and suddenly I'm in front of Joe's cottage, and I'm watching his dad hammers the door, and then the old man opens it, and I'm hit with a smell of stale tobacco and alcohol and perspiration. And I go in and I don't want to sit down or touch anything. But my dad says, "Relax, son, take a seat." And then my father says, "Well, Joe, it's Christmas, the birth of the Savior. And we bought you a few groceries just to show you that we care for you. We love you, Joe. Merry Christmas, Joe." And then my friend said he saw a strange thing. He saw a tear start in the corner of Joe's eye and roll down a dirty beard and onto a dirty shirt. And suddenly, he said, Joe reached out and he clutched my father's arm and said, "Don, you are a bearer of hope." He said it was the last time we made that journey. Joe died early on the next January. What an incredible thing, ladies and gentlemen, to be that bearer of hope. Especially in these difficult circumstances we're in now, to reach out in that way. Did you spot the detail? Did you feel the empathy? Can you see the application? The sheer power of stories.